Then choose me, I pleaded. He just looked away. It's not that simple, he whispered. My children? And in that moment, I knew. He would never choose me. He would always have an excuse. I was his beautiful, tragic, secret love story, but I would never be his life. After he left that time, I didn't answer his texts. I didn't pick up his calls. I spent my mornings walking on the beach, letting the cold, salty wind whip against my face, trying to wash away the last 3 years. I started writing in a journal, pouring out all the pain and confusion. And slowly, page by page, I started to find myself again. He showed up at my door a week later. He said he couldn't live without me. He said he was sorry. He said all the words I had once been so desperate to hear. But this time, they had no power over me. I love you, Michael, I said, and my voice was surprisingly steady. I think a part of me always will, but I need a real life. I need a love that doesn't have to be a secret, but I can't wait for you anymore. He looked at me, and I saw in his eyes that he finally understood. He hugged me goodbye, a long, sad, final hug. And then he was gone. The pain was immense. But underneath it, there was something else. A quiet, profound sense of relief. The war in my heart was finally over. The next morning, I walked down to the sea and I just stood there, watching the waves roll in and out. And for the first time in a very long time, I felt calm. I felt free. I didn't know what my future held, but I knew that whatever it was, it would be mine. It would be real, and it would be lived in the daylight. I never set out to be the other woman. I don't think anyone ever does. You don't wake up one morning and decide to fall in love with a man who goes home to his wife and children. You don't choose a love that has to live in the shadows, a love that's measured in stolen hours and secret text messages. But that's what happened to me. I fell for a man with kind eyes and a sad smile, and by the time he told me the truth, it was already too late. I was already in love. My name is Daniela, and this is the story of how a 2-week business trip turned into a years-long heartbreak, and how I had to learn the hardest lesson of all, that sometimes the greatest act of love is walking away. Before him, my life was a quiet, gentle rhythm. I'm 29, and I live in a little town called Brighton Bay, just a train ride away from the chaos of New York City. It's a peaceful place, the kind of town where the air always smells a little salty from the sea, and the loudest sound is the cry of the gulls in the morning. I work as a receptionist at a small hotel near the beach. My life was predictable, safe. Some people might have called it boring. But after a few messy, painful relationships in my early 20s, boring felt like a blessing. I had my small apartment, my books, my walks by the ocean. I had told myself I was done with love. I was happy on my own, or at least I thought I was. That all changed the day Michael checked in. He was at the hotel for a 2-week business trip. He wasn't like the usual tourists or businessmen who were always in a hurry, always a little demanding. He was calm, polite, and he had a weariness in his soft brown eyes that made me feel an instant, inexplicable connection. When I handed him his room key, he thanked me in a way that felt different, more personal. He actually looked at me and he smiled a real, genuine smile. I couldn't help but smile back. The next morning, he came down to the lobby and asked for recommendations. I told him about the little hidden cafe that had the best coffee, the quiet stretch of beach where you could watch the sunset without a crowd, the little seafood shack that the locals all loved. He didn't just nod along. He listened, really listened, asking little questions, his gaze never leaving my face. And I, a woman who often felt invisible behind her reception desk, started to feel seen. He stayed for 2 weeks, and our little conversations became the highlight of my day. Every evening, when his work was done, he'd find a reason to be in the lobby. We'd talk for hours. Some nights we'd take a walk along the beach, the cool sand between our toes. We talked about everything: his stressful job in the city, my quiet life by the sea. I felt so comfortable with him, so at ease. It felt like I had known him forever. One night, we were walking by the water's edge. The sky was a brilliant dark blanket of stars. He stopped walking and turned to me. "Being with you, Daniela," he said, his voice so soft. "It feels like peace." Those words, they just sank right into my heart. And I think that was the moment. That was the moment I started to fall for him. When his 2 weeks were up, I felt a pang of sadness that was far too deep for someone I had known for such a short time. He left, but he didn't really leave. We texted every single day. We talked on the phone every single night. We'd laugh and share stories, and the miles between Brighton Bay and New York City seemed to just melt away. I missed him. I missed him so much it was a physical ache in my chest. A month later, he came back, but this time he wasn't a guest at my hotel. He rented a small, charming little house down by the harbor. He told me he needed to be back for work, but I knew, or I let myself believe, that he had come back for me. That first night in his rented house felt like a dream. We cooked pasta together in the tiny kitchen, dancing to old music playing from his phone. It felt so natural, so right. I felt so incredibly lucky. I thought, this is it. This is the start of our story. But then, a few nights later, the story took a devastating turn. We were sitting on the couch, sipping tea, when I noticed the sad, weary look was back in his eyes. He looked serious. He put his cup down and turned to me. "Daniela," he began, and my heart started to pound. "I need to tell you something." I just looked at him, waiting. He wouldn't meet my eyes. He just stared at the floor. "I'm married," he said, his voice a quiet, shameful whisper. "And I have 2 children." The world just stopped. The sound of the ticking clock on the wall, the distant foghorn from the harbor, it all went silent. I couldn't breathe. My hands, which were wrapped around my warm teacup, suddenly felt ice cold. Married, children. The words just echoed in the silent, screaming space in my head. "I didn't mean to hide it," he continued, his voice full of a pain that I couldn't even begin to process. "I never expected to meet you. I never expected to feel this way. My marriage, it's not good, Daniela. We live in the same house, but we're just roommates. It hasn't been love for a long, long time. I only stay for the children. That's all." I couldn't speak. I just stood up, a strange, dizzying feeling washing over me, and I walked outside onto the little porch. The cold night air hit my face, a harsh slap of reality. I could hear the waves crashing on the shore, a sound that had always brought me peace, but now it just sounded violent and chaotic. He followed me out. "I understand if you never want to see me again," he said softly. I just nodded, unable to look at him, and I walked away. I walked all the way home, my mind a blank, my heart a hollow, aching cavern. That night, I didn't sleep. I just lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, the questions tormenting me. Why didn't he tell me? How could he do this? But underneath the anger and the hurt, another more treacherous feeling was there. I missed him. I missed the way he looked at me. I missed the peace I felt when I was with him. My mind was screaming at me to run, to save myself, but my heart was already lost. The next day, his message came, just 3 words. "I am so sorry," and then another. "But I miss you." I didn't reply. For days, I was a ghost. I went to work. I smiled at guests, but I was just going through the motions. My heart and my mind were at war. And in the end, my foolish, hopeful heart won out. We met a week later by the beach. I told him how hurt I was, how he had broken my trust. He didn't make excuses. He just listened, and he looked at me with those sad, soulful eyes, and he said, "I know, but I care about you more than I can say." And I stayed. "I know what you're thinking. I know it was the wrong choice. I became the other woman, the secret. But at that time, I let myself believe him. I believed that his marriage was over. I believed that he would eventually leave her. I believed that our love was strong enough to overcome this. I chose to believe in a fairy tale because the reality was just too painful. And so began our life in the shadows. He'd visit Brighton Bay once or twice a month, staying in that little house that became our secret world. We never went out to dinner. We never held hands in public. My life became a series of moments hidden away in that quiet house. And in those moments, he made me feel like the most loved woman in the world. He was so present, so attentive. He'd remember the little things I'd told him weeks before. He'd bring me books by authors I'd mentioned I liked. He made me feel so special. But the moment he walked out that door, I ceased to exist. He went back to his other life, his real life, and I was left alone in the quiet, waiting. My world began to shrink. I turned down invitations from friends, just in case he might call, just in case he might decide to visit. My phone became an extension of my hand, my heart leaping with every notification, sinking with every hour that passed without a word from him, not my friend. Nina, the only person who knew my secret, saw what was happening to me. Daniela, she said gently one day, "You deserve to be someone's first choice. You deserve to be loved in the daylight." Her words were like a crack in the beautiful, fragile bubble I had built around myself. I started to see the truth. He was never going to leave his wife. He wasn't a bad man. He wasn't cruel. But he was a coward. He wanted the comfort of his family and the passion of our affair. He wanted both worlds. And I was letting him have it at the expense of my own life, my own happiness. The next time he visited, I confronted him. I told him I couldn't live in the shadows anymore. I told him I wanted more, that I deserved more. "I love you, Daniela," he said, his eyes full of that familiar, heartbreaking sadness.